Your opinion on how bad Vince fucked up the whole invasion when he bought out WCW and
It's
ECW?
just horrible. It was a crime against nature, you know. I mean, but I understand why he did it, because he wants to prove that he's superior to everybody, and he's so rich that he doesn't care about money, which is a shame, because you know he could have made so much. It was one of the highest buy rates they'd ever had, and maybe still ever had. And they did nothing to make it special. They did everything they can to hamstring it, to hamper it. So, you know, it's like, yeah, when something like that happens, you just want to slit your wrists. I mean, it's bullshit. I mean, you know, it's so fucking sad that that he's so cruel and vindictive, and that he just doesn't care. You know, it's like beyond love of the game, which I know he loves it. I know he loves it, but he's just you know, he has to be his, you know, it's like he has to have the biggest dick in the room, you know what I mean? Let's all pull our dicks out and his has to be the biggest, you know. Mm-hmm. And to me it's like that angle was so botched and ruined. It's just a shame.
Chris, well, you know, coming from Calgary and you know, I guess the, you know, Stu and, you know, breaking him in and stretching him and all that. Chris is a good kid, man. You know, there's a workhorse there. The guy just, you know, clean cut, you know, became one hell of a talent, one hell of a hand. You know, it's amazing that, you know, see, when I started in this business, it was a big man's business. It was a big man's world, you know. The big man, tall, big, you know, you always had the good-looking baby face with the ripped body against the big, fat, mean, ugly heel, you know. That shit's all changed now. Now, I see guys, look at Taz and Pete, the world's largest midget. I mean, you know, I all due respect, Pete's a good kid, man. I had fun working with him, and he hates when I say that. I'm sorry, Pete, I don't mean that. But, you know, it's just, it's changed, you know. It's just a smaller, more faster pace now. It means nothing. It's just garbage. I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't even watch it. I just hate it. I guess Vince got so tired of kayfabing that, you know, he just got tired of insulting everybody's intelligence and just came out and said, yeah, this shit's fake. Leave me alone. I don't mean, well, he did that because of the athletic commission, just to abolish that, but.
Oh, yeah, with the drug testing, right?
Well, no, the drug testing, Vince had to do that because of all the trial and stuff like that, you know. But I'm just saying that.
All the fees for being a sport, right? Is that it?
Yeah, yeah. It just had to be. The problem with that was that if wrestling was a shoot, then it was like boxing, and that they needed an athletic commission, and athletic commission got 10%. Yeah. You know, and Vince, that had to kill Vince, any promoter, you know. So Vince comes out and says, oh, this is all fake, it's a show. And why do we need it? Is there a wrestling commission? I mean, is there an athletic commission for Broadway? You know what I mean? And so it's a play, you know. So, and he's actually very smart by doing that, you know, because it saved him a lot of money. And now I see that a lot of athletic commissions are just dropping away from wrestling because it's irrelevant to an athletic commission. You know, I mean, it takes athletic ability, but it's a work. You know, it's fake, but it hurts. You know, I felt bad. Terry was really, really messed up at the time. You know, his mind wasn't working right. You know, so it was very difficult to work with him at that time because he didn't understand what I was saying, or I couldn't understand what he was saying, you know, so we were just trying to win the match, but, you know, it was just, you know, that's when Gordy was pretty much on his way, you know, out as far as his talent. I don't know what happened with him, you know, well, he almost died a couple times in Japan. I mean, I was there with him, me and Steve Williams walking down the street, you know, and then the other time, geez, I think he was dead. And they brought him back to life. So, you know, it was tough that night working with Terry. I mean, it was an honor to work with the Battle of the Bam Bams, and it was an honor for Terry to put me on because you know, Terry was the first Bam Bam, and believe me, when I got into this business, I didn't even know who Bam Bam Terry Gordy was, you know. So when I chose my name, it wasn't, you know,
Out of disrespect.
it wasn't that, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, otherwise I would have never done it. But, you know, I really, really, really enjoyed my time with Terry. It's another guy. It's another tragedy, man. There's so many tragedies. This business is taking so many good people from us. You know, but that's it. It's the life in the fast.
I'm going to go a little bit of a serious subject here. I did a Reddit chat last week when I was doing my book tour for The Best in the World at What I Have No Idea. And a Reddit chat means people ask you questions kind of on a computer log, and I just answer them as they come. I keep them pretty quick and pretty succinct because I try and answer as many questions as possible. Someone asked me, do you think Chris Benoit should be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I said never. And some people were responding like, why would Jericho say that? You know, wouldn't he have his friends back? And this has nothing to do with friendship. I just wanted to talk about this for a bit. The reason why I don't think Benoit should ever be in the Hall of Fame. You cannot differentiate the two Chris Benoits. I mean, there's the Chris Benoit that had most of his life as a huge fan and student of wrestling, one of the best workers, one of the best wrestlers of all time. Some might say even the best. And then the guy who committed these horrible crimes in the last weekend of his life, where he killed his wife and his 7-year-old son, and then killed himself. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We all know the story. And I have to, once again, like I said, I have to put the fact that Chris was one of my best friends aside. No one really knows what happened on that weekend. I have my suspicions, and even more so after having Chris Nowinski on this podcast, which you can go back in the archives and listen. I'm convinced that a lot of it had to do with really severe concussions that caused dementia, which is something that's happening more and more frequently in the NFL. We're seeing it. I know Junior Seau, very popular NFL player, shot and killed himself a year or 2 years ago, whatever it was. He had the same symptoms, a really messed up brain, hardening of the tissues of the brain. You can ask Nowinski what the details and what the specifics are. I don't know. I could be getting some of it wrong, but basically it messes up your brain and causes you to hear things and causes you to do things that you would never normally do, including very violent things. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why Chris did what he did. But that notwithstanding, you know, put that aside, it tarnished the rest of his life. I mean, you can't say the name Chris Benoit without thinking about that. At least I can't. And I can't put them aside and say, okay, I'm going to go watch a great Chris Benoit match now and not think about the fact that, you know, he killed his wife and kid at the end of his life. And that's why he can never go into the WWE Hall of Fame. There's no way. I mean, first of all, how could you go up there and, you know, do a speech for him? How could you put together a video package and completely ignore all that had happened? How could you do the press for that, for example, you know, as far as promoting it and as far as building it up as this great feel-good moment where you're basically putting in, you know, a double murder suicide into the Hall of Fame? And I'm not sure exactly the circumstances of OJ, and people are like, well, OJ was in the Hall of Fame, and maybe he was in there already, maybe he wasn't. I don't know, but the point is, I can't speak of that. I can just speak from the WWE standpoint and from my standpoint. Like I said, there wasn't a guy on the planet that I trusted more than Chris Benoit, but I would never want to see him into the Hall of Fame because it trivializes what he did at the end of his life. And you could say, oh, I want to put personal and professional aside. And as a professional, absolutely. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame more than anybody else for the dedication he gave to wrestling, how good he was, the amount of amazing matches he had. But the sacrifice that he made as a result of the wrestling business led to his demise and the demise of two other people. And that, to me, is where you cannot put him into the Hall of Fame ever. It's just too sensitive of an issue. You know, I can't even watch Chris Benoit matches at this point in time. It's hard for me to go back and watch any of them. And, you know, putting together a couple of my DVDs, and we're working on the second one right now, you know, that's probably a combined total of about 50 matches between those two DVDs that are on there. But I can never include a Benoit match. One, I don't think I'm allowed to. And B, I don't know if I'd want to. And that was some of the greatest moments of my career. You know, absolutely one of my favorite opponents with probably a dozen classic matches that I'd want to put on there, including the ladder match we had at the Royal Rumble in 2001, which I think is one of the best ladder matches of all time. Totally forgotten because of Chris, you know, and you know, the fact they don't show any of his matches anymore. And then also, too, what was voted the best match in Raw history by a lot of people, which was Jericho and Benoit versus Triple H and Austin. So famous for that's the night that H tore his quad during the match. We talked about it when Triple H was on Talk is Jericho a few months ago. And the crowd going bananas was another noteworthy thing. And another noteworthy thing was it was the first time that anybody had vanquished the evil Steve Austin and Triple H. It was a huge night in WWE history, a huge moment in the history of the Tag Team Championships, and a huge moment in the history of my career. And I can't ever see that match, really. I can't watch it. I think I've watched it once. And it's good. I mean, it's a great classic 5-star match. But it's always tainted to see it when I see, you know, Chris Benoit in it. And, you know, it can't be seen on a DVD. I'm not sure exactly if they're showing Benoit matches on the network. I heard that they were, but they're edited down. But to me, it's not the same. It's not a matter of being censored, like someone telling me you can't watch a Benoit match, so I just don't want to see it. If it was on TV, I probably would just fast forward it or ignore it, because Chris was so intense during his matches and so hard-hitting and so violent, really. You know, everything he did looked so real and so believable that I can't stop thinking about, you know, did he look like that during the last day of his life? Was he that intense? Was he making those noises that he used to make? I'll never forget that, you know. And I know this is a heavy subject, but I wanted to bring it up because it just really didn't, I'm not going to say it got to me, but I wanted to make that clear when someone said, well, I thought that Jericho would have Benoit's back. This is not having somebody's back. You know, me saying that Chris Benoit should be in the Wrestling Hall of Fame doesn't mean I have his back. It means I'm ignoring what's right in front of my face and ignoring all the trials and tribulations that his decision put everybody through. He almost brought down the entire business. That's why I'm surprised that Vince would ever show a Chris Benoit match. I don't care if it was one of the main events of one of his WrestleManias, and you can see that a lot of times when they have, you know, the top 30 main events of all WrestleManias, and I think they show another one instead of Benoit versus H versus HBK at WrestleMania 20. You know, it shouldn't be erased from memory because we should always remember what happened. And also show a little bit of, not sympathy, but understanding and a little closure the more and more we get into this concussion debate and whether that had a lot to do with what he did, which I believe it. It gives me closure, at least, gives me a reason and a mindset that he might have had, which is that he was losing his mind. But to just ignore that and put him in the Hall of Fame because he was a great performer and a great wrestler, I can't go for that. I can't buy it. And if he ever did go on the Hall of Fame by some chance, which he won't, believe me, there is 0% chance. But if we go into another dimension and somehow he got in, I wouldn't show up. I wouldn't be able to take it. I wouldn't be able to give my blessing on that. And I don't think a lot of people really would either. You know, so anyways, Chris Benoit, loved him like a brother, one of my best friends I've ever had on this planet, but the last weekend of his life disqualifies him from any type of Hall of Fame that he might have been in or is in my opinion. And this is my show, and that's all I can give is my opinion, but that was that. So I hope you guys got a little bit of clarity from that on my end. If you want to make some comments, hit me up at Talk is Jericho on the Twitter. And
I have been thrown out. I've been Big John Studd against Andre the Giant. The Spectrum in Philadelphia got caught underneath the ring. Tony Atlas against Ivan. No, it was Tony Atlas against Ivan. No, that would have been right because they're both faces. Maybe Ivan Koloff against like a Tony Atlas, something like that. Been thrown out of the building because try and get too close to the ring. Superfly against Don Morocco.
Of course.
As drunk as I am now. There are these guys.
Wait, you've been drinking?
There are these. Yeah. There were these guys.
Yeah, thank you.
There was the guys that yell, you know how you go to any bar and says staff for security on the back.
Bullshit, yeah.
I was walking out with pieces of the steel cage, Morocco steel cut. This was when, if you go to the Cactus Jack fucking thing, when Stuka would do the big dive off the fucking,
On the Morocco,
off
right?
the top. It's same era, maybe 82, 83-ish. Whatever, and all the guys, oh, here, let me back this up a little bit.